Have you ever noticed how certain areas of your life constantly attract the exact same type of dramatic situations or demanding people? Whether it's a toxic boss, a hyper dependent friend, or an aggressive partner, it feels like a repetitive pattern you simply cannot escape. According to Maharishi Parashara in the ancient text Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra, this isn't a coincidence. It is a mathematical law. Parashara states that every single planet in your birth chart casts 100% full aspect, called a Purna Drishti, exactly 7 houses away from where it sits. Think of every planet in your Kundali as a high powered cinema projector. It is constantly shining its light across your chart, casting a movie onto the opposite wall. It doesn't matter if that opposite wall happens to be your house of career, your house of siblings, or your house of romance. The house becomes a physical stage, and the universe will populate it with real people who are forced to act out the exact script your planet is projecting. To truly read this connection, we use a simple 4 step framework. Step 1 is the internal blueprint. We stand in that zone and look outward, as if through a selfie lens. This reveals your default psychology and what you expect from that area of life. Step 2 is the inner reflection. When your own image appears opposite, it is like facing yourself in a mirror selfie. This shows both sides of your polarity and how you perceive yourself through reflection. Step 3 is the human trigger. What happens when another person enters your life? They arrive like an incoming call, lighting up your screen and automatically activating your relational beam. And step 4 is the echo. When they leave, the space is empty again, but now it carries the imprint of the connection, like a system update that permanently modifies your awareness. Before we dive into the grahas, let's understand the 7 bhav as the circuit of connection. In a closed circuit, the grahas interact within the native zone chart, and energy flows freely between, in this case, the Surya, that is sun, and Chandra, that is the moon. So it is an exchange between desire and reflection. It's self contained, alive, and continuous. The person experiences relationships as extensions of their own karmic wiring. But when the circuit is open, the flow is interrupted. That is, the grahas are triggered by another person's chart. The connection sparks externally, not internally. It's like plugging into someone else's voltage. The current doesn't circulate within you, it jumps across, creating attraction, friction, or lessons. So remember, the closed circuit shows how your planets exchange energy within your inner relationship dynamics. The open circuit reveals how others activate those same grahas, and they are the external mirror of your karmic design. In the 7th bhav, every partnership is an electrical event, either a self powered loop or a borrowed charge. The key is knowing which circuit you are in. The Samasaptama, or seventh from each other relationship in Jyotish, is all about polarity and complementarity. Each sign finds its balance in the one opposite to it, and the grahas ruling those signs, that is, the dispositors, often embody complementary energies. Within the Mars and Venus axis, Mars rules Aries, which shows drive, assertion, and individuality, and Venus rules Libra, which shows harmony, balance, and partnership. Aries pushes forward, and Libra balances with diplomacy. Together they show the dance of desire and union. Mars also rules Scorpio, which shows intensity, transformation, and hidden passion. And Venus also rules Taurus, which shows stability, sensuality, and material comfort. Scorpio's depth meets Taurus's grounding. Desire, which is Venus, stabilizes the drive, which is Mars. The next axis we have here is between the Sun and Saturn. Leo, that is ruled by the Sun, shows individuality, authority, and creative power. Aquarius, which is ruled by Saturn, shows collectiveness, discipline, and social responsibility. They complement each other by the king, who is the Leo, and the people, that is Aquarius. So this is ego versus equality. Another axis with Saturn is between the Moon and Saturn. Cancer, which is ruled by the Moon, is nurturing and has emotional flow. Capricorn, which is ruled by Saturn as well, shows structure, discipline, and worldly ambition. They complement each other by showing emotional care balanced by responsibility. Then we have the axis of Mercury and Jupiter. Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury, is curious, detailed, and communicative. Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter, is about wisdom, philosophy, and higher truth. The complement here is between facts versus meaning. It is essentially the student versus the teacher. Virgo, which is also ruled by Mercury, is about analysis, precision, and service. And Pisces, which is also ruled by Jupiter, is about imagination, compassion, and transcendence. They complement each other by practical detail balanced by spiritual vision. It is good to note that the complement energies flow between Mars and Venus, which are also complementary in nature, and Mercury and Jupiter, where Jupiter is wisdom and Mercury is intellect. The two lights, that is the sun and the moon, can burn any planet or reflect the emotions of any planet which is with them. Thus, they are complemented by Saturn, which is restrictive. Also, another key insight to note is that the seventh from each other relationship is not about opposition and conflict, but about polarity that completes the circle. Each sign holds what the other lacks, creating balance. Mars and Venus are the clearest example. Raw drive, which is Mars, finds fulfillment in refined desire, which is Venus. We will now go through each planet and cover the 4-step Parashari framework on each planet, and I will give one-liners on how the planets feel, think, act, and the lessons it learns in each step. The sun, Surya, is the soul of the native. This sovereign light seeks recognition across the horizon. In step 1, my sun sees an empty house opposite it. I feel the burning need to be seen, respected, and validated. My thoughts insist that the opposite space must reflect my truth. So I act by casting a blinding spotlight, demanding clarity and accountability. Yet the lesson is clear. My brilliance can be blind. Real sovereignty is not about forcing compliance, but lighting the path so others may discover their own power. In step 2, my sun sees another planet of mine opposite it. Here I feel my ego under constant evaluation. My thoughts wrestle with the question, can my light coexist without burning the opposite part of me down? I act by negotiating with myself, adjusting my expressions. And I learn that true mastery is shared governance. My ego must compromise with its opposite to achieve harmony. In step 3, my sun sees another's planet opposite it. When another person's presence enters my beam, I feel my authority tested, my pride defensive. My thoughts ask, are they eclipsing me or challenging my right to lead? I act by projecting harder, asserting boundaries. But the lesson is clear. Respect cannot be seized. It is freely given, born of mutual recognition. In step 4, my son sees an empty house again after the person has left. When they leave, I feel changed by the imprint of the connection. My thoughts recognize that their presence has rewritten my understanding of authority. My actions integrate the experience into my blueprint, and the lesson is lasting. True sovereignty evolves because every encounter upgrades my awareness. The moon, Chandra, is the mind and heart of the native. This restless light longs for sanctuary and reflection. In step 1, my moon sees an empty house opposite it. I feel vulnerable, longing for sanctuary. My thoughts cry out that this opposite space must absorb my emotional waves without judgment. I act by extending care, seeking comfort and peace. Yet the lesson is clear. True emotional security cannot come from outside. It must be built within my own heart. In step 2, my moon sees another planet of mine opposite it. Here I feel emotionally restless and reactive. My thoughts ask, how do I soothe my heart when my own drives keep shifting the landscape? I act by adapting, fluctuating between sensitivity and detachment. And I learn resilience, that is, emotions integrated with other parts of me create stability. In step 3, my moon sees another's planet opposite it. When another person enters, I feel exposed, my moods amplified by their presence. My thoughts wonder, will they nurture me or trigger my insecurities? I act by projecting moods, seeking reassurance, or absorbing theirs. The lesson is vital. Emotional boundaries are the key. Peace flourishes when both stand firmly on their own feet. In step 4, my moon sees an empty house again after the other person has left. When they leave, I feel changed by the imprint of their care or neglect. My thoughts recognize that their presence has rewritten my understanding of emotional safety. My actions integrate the experience into my emotional blueprint, and the lesson is lasting. True sanctuary evolves because every connection upgrades my resilience. Mercury, Bud, is the messenger of intellect. This quicksilver light seeks connection through words, ideas, and exchange. In step 1, my Mercury sees an empty house opposite it. I feel restless curiosity and the urge to analyze. My thoughts insist that everything must be discussed, calculated, and explained. I act by streaming logic and communication across the chart. Yet the lesson is clear. Facts alone cannot solve life. Silence and presence are equally wise. In step 2, my Mercury sees another planet of mine opposite it. Here I feel mentally overstimulated, pulled in two directions. My thoughts ask, how do I reconcile cold data with instinct? I act by building bridges between intellect and intuition, and I learn that true intelligence is holistic. Wisdom comes when logic supports instinct. In step 3, my Mercury sees another's planet opposite it. When another person enters, I feel sharp, alert, and conversational. My thoughts say, let me test their ideas and see if we align. I act by debating endlessly, analyzing every word, but the lesson is clear. Relationships are not contracts. True connection requires stepping away from analysis to simply experience the bond. In step 4, my Mercury sees an empty house again after the other person has left. When they leave, I feel changed by the imprint of their dialogue. My thoughts recognize that their words have reshaped my understanding of truth. My actions integrate the conversation into my mental blueprint. And the lesson is lasting. Wisdom evolves because every exchange upgrades my awareness. Mars, Mangal, is the fiery warrior, the force of courage and conflict charging into life's battles. In step 1, my Mars sees an empty house opposite it. I feel adrenaline, courage, and the urge to conquer. My thoughts declare that this opposite space is a battlefield to be won. I act by casting a defensive beam, ready for combat. Yet the lesson is clear. Constant battle only creates enemies. True courage lies in knowing when to rest the sword. In step 2, my Mars sees another planet of mine opposite it. Here I feel internal friction, my drive blocked by myself. My thoughts ask, how do I charge ahead when another part of me resists? I act by pressuring inward, forcing alignment with my aggressive drive. And I learn that raw force burns me out. Coordinated strength makes me effective. In step 3, my Mars sees another's planet opposite it. When another person enters, I feel competitive sparks and defensive pride. My thoughts ask, are they challenging me or pushing against my boundaries? I act by provoking debates, testing strength, and asserting independence. But the lesson is clear. Friction transforms into creative power when I stop fighting for dominance. In step 4, my Mars sees an empty house again after the other person has left. When they leave, I feel changed by the imprint of conflict and passion. My thoughts recognize that their presence has rewritten my understanding of strength. My actions integrate the encounter into my drive for courage. And the lesson is lasting. True power evolves because every clash upgrades my resilience. Venus, Shukra, is the radiant lover, the seeker of beauty, harmony, and intimacy in the mirror of relationships. In step 1, my Venus sees an empty house opposite it. I feel a magnetic craving for beauty, romance, and peace. My thoughts insist that this opposite space must be filled with harmony and luxury. I act by projecting charm, attraction, and refinement. Yet the lesson is clear. Chasing perfection leaves me empty. True value lies in character, not appearances. In step 2, my Venus sees another planet of mine opposite it. Here I feel romantic conflict, my softness challenged by grit. My thoughts ask, how do I preserve harmony when my opposite side demands a foot? I act by smoothing tension with charm and indulgence, and I learn that real harmony isn't avoidance. Beauty emerges when softness is strengthened by discipline. In step 3, my Venus sees another's planet opposite it. When another person enters, I feel romantic pull mixed with fear of rejection. My thoughts whisper, they hold the key to my happiness. How can I keep them pleased? I act by adapting, compromising, sometimes over pleasing. But the lesson is clear. People pleasing destroys intimacy. True harmony requires speaking my truth. In step 4, my Venus sees an empty house again after the other person has left. When they leave, I feel changed by the imprint of love and fear. My thoughts recognize that their presence has rewritten my understanding of harmony. My actions integrate their encounter into my romantic blueprint. The lesson is lasting. True beauty evolves because every bond upgrades my capacity for love. Jupiter, Guru, is the teacher of wisdom. This expansive light casts ideals into the opposite realm. In step 1, my Jupiter sees an empty house opposite it. I feel benevolence, responsibility, and the urge to guide. My thoughts insist that this opposite space must carry higher law and wisdom. I act by casting protective light, offering moral guidance. Yet the lesson is clear. Wisdom begins with humility. I don't need all the answers. In step 2, my Jupiter sees another planet of mine opposite it. Here I feel philosophical tension, my ideals confronting raw reality. My thoughts ask, how do I apply lofty principles to everyday life? I act by elevating the opposite foes with philosophy and ideals. And I learn that abstract wisdom is useless without daily application. In step 3, my Jupiter sees another's planet opposite it. When another person enters, I feel protective, tempted to lecture or correct. My thought says they need guidance, or perhaps they test my beliefs. I act by counseling, advising, expecting alignment with principles. But the lesson is clear. Wisdom cannot be forced. Real growth comes through mutual inspiration. In step 4, my Jupiter sees an empty house again after the other person has left. When they leave, I feel changed by the imprint of shared wisdom. My thoughts recognize that their presence has rewritten my understanding of truth and humility. My actions integrate the encounter into my moral blueprint. And the lesson is lasting. True wisdom evolves because every exchange upgrades my philosophies. Saturn, Shani, is the karmic taskmaster. This weight of time builds walls of duty and endurance. In step 1, my Saturn sees an empty house opposite it. I feel heavy responsibility, caution, and fear of betrayal. My thoughts insist that this opposite space is dangerous and must be controlled. I act by building walls, setting strict rules, and slowing progress. Yet the lesson is clear. Walls keep out joy too. True security is resilience, not imprisonment. In step 2, my Saturn sees another planet of mine opposite it. Here I feel internal pressure and restriction. My thoughts say I must discipline this wild opposite energy within myself. I act by imposing rules, delays, and strict discipline inward. And I learn that over restriction stagnates me. Boundaries must support, not crush. In step 3, my Saturn sees another's planet opposite it. When another person enters, I feel guarded, detached, burdened by duty. My thoughts ask, will they respect my boundaries or force me to enforce rules? I act with cool detachment, testing patience and commitment. But the lesson is clear. Love endures when I drop walls. Bonds become unshakable. In step 4, my Saturn sees an empty house again after the other person has left. When they leave, I feel changed by the imprint of endurance and discipline. My thoughts recognize that their presence has rewritten my understanding of responsibility. My actions integrate the encounter into my karmic foundation, and the lesson is lasting. True strength evolves because every test upgrades my capacity for devotion. Now that I have explained in detail how a planet feels, thinks, acts, and the lessons it learns for each situation of the area of life that its seventh Drishti is casted on, let us look at some examples. Since we have covered grahas or planets' point of view in detail above, we will only consider planets in mutual drishti or opposition or samasaptama in a natal chart or kundli and in a synastry chart or in graha sambandham with another person. Now, before we look at our examples, I need to issue a massive warning. Do not look at these cross chart dynamics to judge whether you and your partner will break up or stay together forever. Interchart graha sambandham cannot calculate the lifespan of a relationship. It operates purely as an open circuit. When your partner is physically sitting next to you, the cord is plugged into the wall. The chemistry runs hot, and you feel the intense mirrors of Mars, Venus, or Saturn. But the moment they walk away, that plug is instantly pulled. The circuit breaks, and the current completely stops. You do not permanently absorb their planets. Your horoscope immediately defaults back to its true permanent blueprint, your own natal planets and your own empty houses. Use these examples to understand your daily triggers, not to predict the destiny of your relationship. Our first example is between the sun and the moon. The sun, the Surya, the sovereign flame, and the moon, Chandra, the restless heart. They face each other in mutual drishti, that is, light and emotion locked in reflection. First, within the natal chart. When the native has their sun and moon in mutual drishti, there is a fundamental tension between the conscious identity and the emotional nature in the native's kundli. It often reflects conflicting desires and needs within the native. This opposition invites us to balance our external goals and our inner world. This aspect is characterized by a dynamic interplay between the sun, which symbolizes our ego and our outward focused self, and the moon, which represents our emotions and subconscious self. This opposition can create a sense of internal disharmony as we grapple with the seemingly contradictory pulls of our conscious and unconscious selves. Ultimately, Sun opposite Moon serves as a catalyst for personal growth, encouraging introspection and the integration of our conscious and unconscious selves. It invites us to delve into our inner world, reconcile our conflicting desires, and achieve a sense of internal harmony. In a synastry comparison, this opposition or mutual drishti is the classic soulmate indicator. In Jyotish, if this is between relationship partners, it creates a Shiv Shakti connection, as there is a feeling of completing each other. It often creates a powerful magnetic attraction between two individuals as one partner embodies the qualities the other lacks. The sun person may be drawn to the moon person's emotional depth, while the moon person is attracted to the sun person's vitality and confidence. However, this dynamic can also result in intense power struggles and emotional clashes. The sun person's directness may overwhelm the moon person's sensitivity, while the moon person's emotional approach may confuse the sun person's logical mind. To navigate these challenges, it's crucial for both partners to understand and respect each other's differences. This involves acknowledging the unique strengths each brings to the relationship, such as the sun person's ability to take action and the moon person's intuitive understanding of others' feelings. The next example is between Mars and Venus. Mars, Mangal, the fiery warrior, and Venus, Shukra, the radiant lover. They confront each other in the mirror of desire, passion and beauty entwined in opposition. Within a natal chart, when the native has their Mars and Venus in mutual drishti, there is a conflict between individuality that Mars asserts and connection that Venus desires in the native's kundli. Mars is the planet of action, drive, and desire. It represents our primal instincts and our need for individuality. On the other hand, Venus is the planet of love, beauty, and relationships. It symbolizes our need for connection and harmony. The energies of these planets collide in a clash of assertiveness and desire, creating a powerful and often challenging dynamic. This aspect represents the struggle between individual willpower and the need for harmonious relationships, highlighting the tension between personal wants and the compromises necessary for love and connection. Despite its challenges, Mars opposite Venus also offers opportunities for growth and transformation. This aspect forces us to confront the tension between our personal desires and our relationships. It invites us to find a balance between being true to ourselves and being considerate of others. In a synastry comparison, this opposition or mutual drishti is the classic opposites attract. In Jyotish, if this is between relationship partners, it creates a Purusha Prakriti connection, as there is a primal urge to connect with each other. The attraction between them is magnetic and intense, drawing them together with undeniable chemistry. The intense attraction and sexual dynamics that arise from Mars opposite Venus in synastry are often immediate and powerful. Mars, the planet of desire, aggression, and action, oppose Venus, the planet of love, beauty, and harmony, creating a strong pull between the two individuals. This can result in a highly charged relationship full of passion and sexual magnetism. When it comes to power struggles, Mars opposite Venus can be a challenging aspect. Mars wants to take action and assert dominance, while Venus seeks harmony and cooperation. This can lead to conflicts and disagreements as each individual tries to assert their own needs and desires. However, these challenges can also serve as opportunities for growth and understanding. By learning to balance their energies and compromise, individuals can transform their relationship into a dynamic interplay of passion and harmony. Next example is between the Sun and Saturn. The Sun, Surya, the regal sovereign, and Saturn, Shani, the karmic taskmaster, stand opposite in Drishti, authority and endurance, testing each other's strength. Within the natal chart, when the native has their Sun and Saturn in mutual drishti, they experience a deep sense of responsibility, self discipline, and a need to overcome obstacles. This aspect or drishti can be a powerful symbol of personal growth and transformation, but it also presents unique challenges that require patience and perseverance to overcome. Saturn represents discipline, responsibility, and structure, while the Sun represents our core self, our vitality, and our creative energy. When these two celestial bodies are in opposition in the natal chart, it often results in a personality that is highly responsible and disciplined, prone to self doubt and insecurity, and driven to overcome obstacles. They lack self esteem and are unable to balance responsibility with self care. They are overcritical of themselves. The native has to learn to relax and invest in themselves. In synastry comparison, this opposition or mutual drishti is both dynamic and challenging. In Jyotish, Saturn is the great taskmaster of karma and is the mythical son of Surya and Chaya. The relationship between these two is very challenging to say the least, as Saturn was ignored by the Sun and cannot tolerate the Sun's ego. This aspect signifies a meeting of two contrasting energies, the Sun representing individuality and self expression, and Saturn symbolizing responsibility, discipline, and limitations. The Sun person may feel restricted or criticized by the Saturn person, while the Saturn person may feel overwhelmed or threatened by the Sun person's spontaneity and need for freedom. This can lead to tension and misunderstandings if not managed properly. However, it is not all negative. This aspect also presents opportunities for growth and maturity. The Sun person can help the Saturn person loosen up and enjoy life more, and the Saturn person can help the Sun person become more disciplined and responsible. The next example is between Moon and Jupiter. The Moon, Chandra, the tender heart, and Jupiter, Guru, the wise teacher, gaze across the horizon. Emotion and wisdom exchanging their eternal light. Within a natal chart, when the native has their Moon and Jupiter in mutual drishti, this is a blessing in the native's kundli. It is a Gajakesari yoga and promises the native wisdom, wealth, influence, emotional stability, and success. When Jupiter, the planet of growth, optimism, and abundance, is opposite the Moon, the celestial body associated with emotions, intuition, and needs, it creates a dynamic tension. This tension often manifests as a constant tug of war between the desire for expansion and the need for emotional security. Individuals with this aspect are likely to be adventurous and expansive in their outlook. They are often drawn to new places and cultures, and they may have a strong desire to learn and grow and explore. In a synastry comparison, this opposition or mutual drishti is a blessing. In Jyotish, if this is between relationship partners, it creates an emotionally expansive connection. When Jupiter is opposite the moon between two individuals, a powerful interplay of expansion and emotions takes center stage in their relationship. This aspect creates an intense attraction and a deep desire to explore and grow together, while also presenting significant challenges and opportunities for personal and relational development. The attraction between two individuals with Jupiter opposite Moon in their synastry chart is often palpable. Jupiter represents growth, optimism, and abundance, while the Moon signifies our emotional needs and instinctive responses. This combination can create a dynamic and exciting energy that draws the two individuals together. However, this intense attraction can also lead to a tendency of overindulgence or emotional excess, which can be a challenge to manage.